Hope you can all hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you.
Right. Right. So we'll be moving on to the class for today. And let me go back to when we started, these were our focus. And we did Bootstrap last week. We touched Bootstrap. Let me use that word. We also touched media queries. And so I'll be moving on with, we touched Bootstrap and we didn't do media queries. So today we'll be looking at media queries, and we also do a little of Bootstrap. But I want our attention to be focused on media queries because, as we said last week, Bootstrap is more like a CSS framework. So all you need to do for Bootstrap, you just head over to their website and read their documentation. They have lots of examples on how to implement them. In the process of implementing, if you have an issue, you can always call, drop a chat, and we'll see how to respond to those questions. But basically, because we're just dealing with frameworks, I won't want to dwell much on that. So I'll just move over to media queries today, and we'll see where we'll kick off from there and see where we can. So the subject of media queries. Hello, hope you can still hear me.
Yes.
All right. So on the subject of media queries, what are media queries? Let me start with explaining, start with this simple explanation. You know, naturally, when you design your website, when you design a website, you design it in such a way that you can view the website on your phone, on your device, on your mobile, and every other place. Like if I'm using my phone, I'm sure every website that we have, just give me a sec. I think there's a background noise around here. Let me just deal with this noise. All right, sorry for that. Okay, so I was saying that when we look at media queries, what we are simply looking at is, I'm sure you are aware that most websites that you view with your mobile phones. Now, as a web developer, one of the things you'll be doing is you design for accessibility. Accessibility means, I know when we started this, we said something about accessibility. Accessibility comes in different areas, but one of the areas we'll be looking into is media devices. Often build your website. Somebody who doesn't have a computer should be able to view your website. Somebody who probably has a desktop at home and doesn't have a phone that can browse should be able to view your website, especially if you're selling a product. And I'm sure most of the websites we view and we access them with our mobile phones and with our computers. And it is proven from statistics that mobile phone users even surf the web. The amount of mobile phones that are used to surf the web is even more than the amount of the devices such as computer and laptops. So that calls for a design that could work for both desktop, laptop, and every kind of screen. So the idea of media queries has to do with responsive design. As the name implies, responsive design. It means that I want to do a design that anybody can access, both using their mobile phones, using their any other device. And apart from that, media query also covers instances where we have to design for certain particular kind of persons. Maybe person that have certain defects, we need to also design for them so that they can also be incorporated in our design process. So that is the concept of media queries. And without speaking, going into much theory, I have a little diagram showing a demonstration. Or let me open my VS Code. I have a little diagram with a demonstration of what media of the syntax for media queries. So what is the syntax of media queries? This one here is the media queries are written in this format. Don't worry, we'll start the practical, you'll get it clearer as we start. Media queries are written in this format. The first one is at media. Whenever you want to invoke the media query, use the at media, use the at media property. Now, what this property does, it calls the media query. Then the next to it is the media type you want to design for. The media type you want to design for. The next one to it is the media feature you want to design for. Then an operator, which is optional, and another media feature, depending on the way the design should go. Now, if you see the simple example I cited, this is an example of my media query. In this example, what I'm saying is that if my screen size is between 600 pixels and 1200 pixels, I want my H1 element to have a red color. That is simply what I'm saying. I'm saying that if my website is between 600 pixels and 1200 pixels, and I want my H1 element to have a color of red, which means that for sizes that are not in this category, my H1 element will have a different color. So that is to tell you that whenever you do your design, you have to design two different CSS. Your CSS has to be different. The one used for mobile has to be different from the one used for the other screen sizes. So that is what media query helps us do. So we'll just go into an example. Let me start by showing us how it works, where we have a situation where we have different screen sizes, and we want them to be displayed for different users. Okay, so let me go ahead and do a practical example so that we understand this concept. But all media queries are written in this syntax. Now, if you notice, H1, this is the normal CSS property, the way we normally write CSS properties. So after defining your media query in this, defining your media type, the media feature, and the rest, you put a curly brace, then put your CSS property that you want to adjust based on this media size inside those curly braces. So let me go ahead and do a practical example so I don't confuse us. Let's continue from the example we had last week, and we'll apply some media queries to them for our different screen size. Let's continue with that example. So this was what we're working with. We had already done some bootstrap properties on this. So let me just go ahead and remove the bootstrap property we implemented last week, so we can move on with our own CSS properties. I will remove this from bootstrap. Let me just comment it out. Okay. So this was what we had before we implemented bootstrap. What we had the background image, we had the background image. Yeah. Okay, so this was what we had before we implemented bootstrap. Our cards look scattered. I think we have to find a way to align them properly. Okay, but basically what I want to do now is, we are saying that this is, let's say you finished your work, finished your design, and this is what you have. And this is what you have. And now, for some reason, you want to design for another screen size, such that if the screen size should change, you want something to change in this property. Okay, let's go with this option. Let's go with this, our navigation. You see that my navigation is, sorry, let me see this. It's overflowing. Let me find. You see that our navigation is, it's placed horizontally. And now, if I want to do for a different screen size, okay, if the screen size is smaller than this, or give me the particular figure, I want this, my navigation, to be aligned one on top of each other, the way it was before we used CSS to align it this way. Now, to do that, this is what we will need to do. I come down here and I want to define a different set of properties for different screen size. So let me go ahead and define this and say, following this syntax. Following this syntax, let me put them side by side. Following our syntax. Following our syntax. So I define an as. Okay. So you define an as, and you type the word media. Already, VS Code has a way of bringing out for us. VS Code has already brought out the syntax for us. So now what I'd have to do is to define my media feature. In defining my media feature, I have to put them in brackets, just the way they are here, in brackets, just the way they are here. So go ahead and yeah. What I'm saying is, okay, let me go ahead and, don't worry, I will explain the concept of minimum width and maximum width. I just want to show us an example. Demonstrate this first before we go into the explanation. Maximum width of say 600 pixel. Okay, so let's do something. I have okay, right now for my example, our body is the background of our body for this page. This is the background of the body. The background is white. Now let's say if the screen size is small, I want the background to change to red. I want to demonstrate that before demonstrating this, so it will be easier for us to comprehend. Now, I can go ahead and say, I've defined the media query property. Now go ahead and say body. I'll define my normal CSS property the way I will define them. So, okay, my body. I want my body, and I say background color. Background color should be, say, green. Okay, so see what happened here. Let's now see what is happening here. My background color is now green. Well, if I expand my page, it goes back to white. So in order to check this effectively, let's go and inspect our page, and so we can shrink it the way we want. So I want to shrink my page. My background color changes to green. Just watch my, if you watch my table, if you watch up there, you see where 588.5 by 484.5. So as I increase, once it gets to 600, it changes immediately to white. So once you get to here, it's green. Once I move, it changes to white. So that is how media query works. It's just a small example of how media query works and how we can use them. Now, you can also go ahead and set it on your device here. Like here, you can go ahead and set it here. we have a way you can set it here and see how it works. If I expand, if I decrease, if you look, this is the width. The width is less than 600 now. So if I expand it, it's above 600, it changes to white. If I decrease, it changes to green. So this is how media query works. I want to know if we understand this before I go on to explain the other process. Is there any question, please? Hello?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. There is a question.
Okay.
Sir, the curly braces that you open after at media screen and max pixel, you open the curly braces there. Do you see that?
That is, you mean this syntax? What I wrote here?
Yes, yes. That's after the 600 pixel. When you close the bracket,
Yes.
there was one opening there.
Yes.
That opening, does it have an end?
Yes, this is the end here.
Okay. Sorry.
And this one is the normal CSS property that you know. The normal CSS property that you know. This is the media query syntax. Then inside the syntax, every property I'll be defining will be embedded, will be inside here. So if I want to go ahead and define, let's say I want to define the color for my P elements. Let me say I want to define a color for my P elements. I can go ahead and say, I want to define color for my P elements. I can go ahead and say my P elements, I call it color. I give it the color of say blue. Now what this property simply means is if the screen size is less than 600 pixels, maximum width means from 0 to 600. So the maximum width, if it gets to until it gets to 600, keep the background of the body as green and make the color of the paragraphs blue. But once it exceeds 600, revert back to the default property. Revert back to the default property. So that is the concept of media query. So if you understand this simply means that maximum width means if the width of the browser is less than 600, which means the maximum it can get to is 600. After 600, this property should not apply anymore. That is what this statement is saying. After 600, it shouldn't apply anymore. You can change this. You can change this and write it this way. You can say, okay, instead of saying maximum width, you can also say, okay, you can also define every other property you define here and place it inside a minimum width of 600. So that one means if the width is 600 and above, please apply every color up. But once it's 600 and below, apply these colors down. So that is the concept of media query. If we understand this part, I'll go ahead and start explaining the different options that we have based on the diagram I displayed before. Are we clear with this part? Please, I want to get a response.
Yes, it's okay. For me, it's okay.
Okay, any other response? Hello, Suka. Rejoice. Is it clear?
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
So I'm just trying to understand the whole concept. So we are having like two sections of your CSS properties.
Yeah, we are having two sessions.
If you want a certain property to be applied to a certain screen size, it takes one. And then if you want a certain property to apply to a certain screen size, it takes the other.
Yeah. Now, okay, go ahead.
So now, how do we how do we, because for me, I feel like it's kind of cumbersome. If I want my properties to adjust to, as in I want all my properties to adjust to my phone screen size.
Okay.
And then when it is being viewed on a system, a bigger screen, I want it to take another screen. I wanted to take another. I'm still trying to understand anyway. It's kind of cumbersome for me.
Okay, see, the reason why we have this done is, if I remove this property, let me comment it out. Now, if you open, I'm sure there's a website you open on your phone, you'll notice that, okay, let me even use what we have here. If I have this whole thing displayed here, if I minimize it, say I'm minimizing it. This is a typical mobile phone. If I minimize it, do you see what happened to the navigation elements? Did you see them? Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
So naturally, they won't adjust to this screen size. Either it's too big for them or it's too small for them. And if I have more elements, even in this case, the user has to scroll. If you watch down here, the user has to scroll to the right to be able to see things that are hidden inside it. So the idea of responsive design is making sure every element you design fits into the screen sizes, fits into every screen size. Because if you don't do it this way, you discover that when you view, I'm sure you've opened some website, and when you view them on the computer, they look very nice. But when you go to the mobile, they look very scattered. Have you encountered anything like that?
Yeah, I have.
Yes. So what happened is, once you finish your design, you test it on mobile and test it on a computer. Now, if you test it on a mobile, there are tools that can help you test it in mobile. One of them is this Chrome Dev tool. You can come to this place and use mobile to test it. Now, the way it's behaving here, this is exactly what will happen if somebody using a phone of a phone of size 332 pixel to view your app or your website. Now, you can attest that it doesn't look nice here. But let's say these things are very small, you can't even read them. Well, we can adjust it in such a way that instead of them aligning vertically like this, want one to fill this whole space, another one fill this, so they will align one on top of each other, so that the viewer can read what is written inside. That is what that helps. So I just use color as an example. Let's use a more practical example. Let's use this our cards. Let's use this our cards. This is the way they are aligned on a bigger screen. But see what happened when I reduce my screen size. I can't read what is written inside here. And this is how the user will see it. So the user will be struggling to even read what you wrote. Even to click a button will be a challenge. But what if I have this card displayed, just as I have this background image here, I have this card displayed like this for small screen sizes, so that the user can easily read what is written inside. It makes more sense. So let's go ahead and implement that effect. Suka, is it a little bit clear to you now?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's getting clearer.
Okay, so let's go ahead and implement that, stacking our card on top of each other. But first of all, I just noticed that it's overflowing and it's okay. Let me see. It's overflowing to the right. See, that's how we define it. Define it. Let's just go ahead. I'll find out it's overflowing to the right. I want to see why. Just go ahead. I'll find out. So I don't speak out time. All right. So, all right. So this is what we had from last week, and last week. Let's go ahead and apply some stylings. Here we had a background. Had a background. New elements. Let me just use display flex. Okay. We had flex wrap. The flex. These are the elements, but I'm trying to find out why it's over. Why we have this gap here. Let's just go ahead. So don't take our time. Okay, so this is what I wanted to do. Now, this on a desktop, this is what it looks like. But if I minimize my screen, what I want to do is sort of this flex container that we use, where we align them side by side like this. I want a situation where they will be aligned one on top of each other once my screen size is reduced. So what we simply do is, in this our media query property that we've defined, this is our media query property that we've defined. I'll now go ahead and say my display is flex. This is, I guess, this is what we are trying to adjust, this particular property, the home paragraph property. My display is flex, and by as we know, by default, flex should be aligned. The row direction for display flex is it's the direction, the flex direction is row by default. So which means if I want it to be stacked on top of each other, I have to now apply flex direction column in my media query property, and that is all I need to do. So if I come down to this point and I target the elements, I target what I want to style. It could be an element, it could be something you call by a class. So in this case, we'll call it using a class. So let me go ahead and style it. Go ahead and style it. So I want the flex direction. I'll change it to column in this case. What I'm simply saying is that it will remain the default row. Then if the screen size is 600 and below, then make it flex direction column, which means that those are cards will be stacked on top of one and on top of each other. So let's go ahead and see it. Our cards will be stacked on top of each other. Yeah, sorry, we're not getting the results. Let's start it from last week. Yes. Let us go to our, so these are head, these are body, the nav, this is the home section, the section we called home. And we had home paragraph where we had these cards, give them a class of cards. Each of these cards had a button. Let me find us. So this is what we had. This space here. Why even hide this thing so it doesn't even come up? I guess, oh yeah, it's our H1 element. Our H1 element is the background size, over, background repeat, no repeats, width. Okay, so I think we fixed that error. All right, so let's continue. Let me share my screen again. Right, so this is what we had before. Now we are saying that with CSS, we want to do something, we want these cards to be stacked on top of each other using media query. And we implemented this property. Let me minimize it again. So if it's less than this, the card should be sitting on the okay. So say the display should be column, then this should be column. Okay, we can go ahead and now define a width. Let me, this is the card, the card paragraph. So I can go ahead and define a width for each of the card. In the width, I can define 100%, meaning that I want the width to fill, just define 100%. Let's go ahead and inspect and see why it's so this is my card home. Yes. Okay, there's something I even want you to observe here. If you notice, why we define this property in CSS? If you notice in our inspection area here, you can see that the flex direction has been changed to column because once I expand, that same property changes, the flex direction changes. The flex direction changes to row by default. Oh, okay, there's something is giving us an extra space here and it's disturbing the workflow. So it's part of it. Sometimes when you work like this, you have to start looking for where there is a bug in your code. So let's fix it together. It's part of what we learn. Have the padding left 20 pixel. Let's see. This one is for padding left 20 pixel. So much of 20 pixel. Yes. Center. C. Okay, I think this is better. This is better. Well, my H1 element is now smaller in size. Okay. Let me give it a height of 100 pixel. 100 pixel. This is the height 100 pixels. So let me increase from here. 100. I think 200 is better. Okay. Sorry for that. It happens. Sometimes you have to pause and figure out where you have a bug in your code. All right. So this is the card. And with this view, the card is, as you can see, the card has, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. But what we are saying is, when the view changes, I want just one card to be on top of the other, one card on top of the other, one card on top of the other, just as we had before. So if I go to my media query and I say display flex, my display. Now, one thing you should notice that I didn't define display flex again because I already defined it up here. You just need to target the property you want to change, just that particular property, and change it here. Like in the case of P elements, let's say in this, let's say up above here, I define a border of P elements, but I don't want to alter the border in this case. I just want to add to what I defined. What I want to do is to change the color of my P elements to be change the color of my P element to be blue. If I want to change the color of my P element to be blue, so all I'm doing is I'm picking that particular property I want to tweak or change, and that is what will be affected in my media query properties instead of affecting any other property. So I don't have to repeat myself and start doing again display flex, flex direction column, and the rest of that. Since I've already done display flex all I need to do is to come here and say that my flex direction this time around, I want it to be column. So let's see that work. If I inspect my page and I try to reduce it, the display is not. Did we do something in our HTML? It's just, let's work this together. Let's see. Cards. We have individual card. Okay. I'm saying I want them to be displayed one on top of each other. These cards to be displayed one on top. Display as a flex. Not displaying how it's sorry. Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excuse me, So I
Yeah.
think we should try the wrap property.
I
think we should try the wrap property. The
flex wrap.
yeah.
Flex wrap. Is it wrapping? Did I say no wrap?
Grow.
Yeah. That was. Oh, that didn't even fix it. Something is not right with. Sorry. Display flex. It's in the right. When we are flowing on top of the other ones. Be it positioning anywhere here. Okay, I think I've seen why we're having that challenge. I think so. Yeah, this is what I wanted. This is what I wanted. Okay, so we have two cards working. Let me see. I think, let me see why the other one didn't respond. No, when we did the work we did last week, we had this property. Let me go back again. We had this card property, and it restricted the sizes of our cards to 18 rems. So that was why when we did that, they are still maintaining the same size we specified before, 18 rems, and we also specified the width. So I had to remove this card property I defined before. Or another way is if I leave it, I have to come back and redefine it in my CSS properties. And redefine it here. Come back here and say card in my media player property. And this time around, I want it to be 100%. I want my card to be 100%. Okay, so I think that's, but I don't know why is it overflowing into top. Last week, I think we touched so many things in this. Yeah, this is part of what we do. Sometimes we have to just present and fix simple. Oh, we have our display as grid. I guess that is why our display is grid is supposed to be flex. I guess it's part of our issue. Our display is still grid. Some display grid, so the home display. Yep. Wow. Okay, so this is how we are display flex, our home section, and we said flex direction column. Okay, so this is what we had by default. The flex direction is column in our home section for everything, and for these other properties, so if we go ahead and expect, why is this? Please. View height of. Okay, I have a view height of, say a view height of 100. We are getting closer. Worry. Getting close. think after we worked last week, touched some things, and that was so I've removed my view height. The view height was actually making it okay. Why are these other cards not responding? Not responding. So if you want to inspect, you come to this card, you click on it. Properties comes to your left, and you can inspect them and know why they are not responding. We have key. Element style. Okay, this is underway. My HTML, do I have? Seeing 18 pixel. Do I have any inline property? Okay, sorry. So I have 18 pixels defined as inline property for the star is it? That's why those ones were not changing. They were still 18 pixels. I guess last week when we did work with Bootstrap, we altered most of these things. So, all right, so everything is working fine now. Yeah. So basically, when I shrink my screen, I want these cards to be stacked on top of each other. But as I go, they go back to the default shape. And as I expand more, they become 3. So this is what we do with media query. Now, as you can also tell, it is now easier for the user to read this card. Let me remove the background color I specified before. Let me remove the background colors. I just use this as an example. So you can tell that it's easier for the user to read this text. To read this rather than the way it was before. See, so even if the screen is smaller, the user can still read it because the cards are now stacked on top of each other. But another issue we have here, as you also see, is this my H1 element is not sitting nice now. So what I can do in this case is in the media query where I define a media query, I can now come and change this my H1, change the font size of my H1, change it to reduce it so that it could sit nicely in the container, in the web browser, in this case, a phone. So that is what we do with media query. So what I simply did here was my cards were not looking good on small screen before. So I now adjusted them, saying that if my screen size is less than 600 pixels, please stack this card on top of each other. The idea is so your users can read what I have written and also take action in case they need to click a button or something. So these my cards are stacked on top of each other, and they even have a color of blue once I change. So this is what media query helps us achieve. These are the things it helps us achieve. So if you see, if I continue going, even my navigation elements are now scattered. They're not sitting very nice. Another way I can do is this navigation element. I can change the flex direction to column so they'll be aligned one on top of each other too. Now, one on top of each other too, and also reduce the size of my H1 elements. This is what we do, because if you don't do it this way, every day devices come out every day. So you don't know the device that might be coming up tomorrow. So media query is used to make your website very responsive. I'm sure you browse some websites and when you see them on your mobile phone, they don't look nice. But when you see them on the desktop, they look nice. Those are where responsive designs were not considered while doing the design and media queries were not implemented. But once you implement media queries and you give them this width, it takes care of these little things. It takes care of these things for us and make sure our website is well arranged to fit to any screen size that it needs to fit into. Please, I need to know if you have a question. I know we're trying to adjust, but please, if you have a question, go ahead and ask. Let me answer before I move to the next, before I move to arranging these other ones. I want to take questions now. Hello, Uzi, is it clear? Is the concept clear? The concept of media query?
Hello, sir.
For me,
No,
it's
not
okay.
too clear.
Okay, you were lost at what point?
At the beginning, I know
At the beginning. And you didn't raise alarm. We told you to raise alarm since you didn't raise alarm. Please, if you have a question as we proceed, just if I give space, we'll just ask immediately. So we'll sort it out. Because one thing in this, it's one knowledge built on the next one, and it keeps going like that. So if you don't get the first one, it might be difficult for you to catch up with the next one. So David, you had a question. Let me go ahead and answer everything. Okay, I thought you were trying to say something. All right, so let me just run over it again. Media query, the concept of media query, and why we need to implement them in design. Let me just comment out this thing I did here. Comment it out. Okay, so this is what we had before. No, this was not what we had. No. This is what we had this text, and we said our cards. Okay, we had leaflets. Okay, so the concept of media query is thus flex direction, row. There's something is not right. All right, we'll go over the concept again. Let me comment out these things and run it one more time so we'll be on the same page. Okay, this was where we started. I will say this is our website. This is what we had. Now, we said our website, one thing when building a website, we have to build for different screen sizes. And we now try to reduce this to make it smaller. Now trying to reduce this to make it smaller. And my media query is still applying. So we try to reduce it to make it smaller. We discovered that while we reduced it to make it smaller, the text became very small and unarranged. For instance, if you see my navigation, my nav elements, the about, the contact, the home, and the career section. Even my H1 element is not even looking. I wanted all the text to be on one line, but they're not sitting on one line. Uzi, can you see that?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. Now, what we can do in order to fix this is the concept of media query was introduced to make our website responsive. The word, when I say responsive, means that our website should be able to respond to different screen sizes, meaning that there are so many mobile phones now, there are so many tablets, and each of these tablets have their own screen sizes, as you know. The size of your phone might not be the same size with an iPad. So once you finish doing your design, how do you make sure they can adjust to these different screen sizes? How do you make sure that the viewer who is viewing it on a smaller screen size can have a feel, can also enjoy the app or the website the same way a user who is viewing it on a desktop computer will also enjoy it? How do you ensure that this happens? This is done using media queries. It's done using media queries. Now, the idea of media query is thus. The idea of media query is thus. If the users can't view your page on different screen sizes, it makes them uncomfortable and the site is not enjoyable. I don't know, have you encountered any site that you viewed on your phone? It's maybe on desktop, you liked it, was looking very nice. But when you when you try to view it on your mobile phone, either the text were not properly arranged, or they were scattered, or they were not sitting the way they're supposed to sit. Have you experienced anything like that, Uzi?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in order to avoid that experience, and I'm sure when you experienced it, you didn't like it. If you had your way, you would have said, this people didn't do this design very well. Now, we use the concept of media query to eliminate these challenges. If I reduce my site, my page, if I reduce and expand, if I reduce and expand, let me see, I removed media query, but I just noticed it's still responding to media query. Let me find out what. All right, you have to bear with me. I think we changed so many things in the last class, so most of these things are flex directions, column. Okay, that's correct. And in the home section, the home, please. This is our home. Yeah, this is our home. It's the flex. Yeah. Column, which is correct. They will now add home paragraph here. Home paragraph here. User spaces. Okay. So this is our home. This is our home paragraph. Okay, the display should be flex. Specify content center. That's so what we're trying to do is flex direction. This one should be the row. The row we have. Just follow me. Let me sort out this. Giving us issues. Mid gap 10 pixels. Yeah, so let me work with this. It's better explained doing it like this. You understand it better like this. Okay. So this is the default. This is what we have default. Now, if I try to shrink this screen size, I try to shrink it. I try to reduce this. Okay, this is what I wanted to explain. Uzi, can you now see my screen? When my screen size is less than 600, when my screen size is less than 600, I'm sure you can't read text here and it don't appear nice, right?
Yes.
Now, I want to use media query to change the look of this my cards. When I mean cards, I mean these ones with the red border, so that they will be stacked one on top of each other. So that when my screen size is less than 600, the cards should be stacked on top of each other. Now we have different screen sizes for different devices, which was what I wanted to show us before we we have different screen sizes for different devices. I'll just go ahead and show it. We have, this is extra small, which is less than 576 pixel. This is small, which is above 576 pixel, but it's less than 768. We have medium screen size, we have large screen size, we have extra large, we have extra large. The computer you're using, most of the computers you're using are between 1,200 from 992 pixels to 1,400 and 1,600, 800 pixels, as the case may be. So these are the different screen sizes that we have. This information, I got it from a Bootstrap website. You can also check it out later. So these are the different screen sizes. If you want to know the screen size of your phone, once you hold your phone and go to the properties, you can also check the screen size of your phone, or even in the catalog, you can see the normalized screen sizes for devices. So these are the screen sizes for devices. They are written in pixel. So what we're practically doing is, if my screen size I'm using is this screen size means that it is less than 576, which means that my device is a small device, maybe a mobile phone, or very small mobile phone that has a small, even with mobile phones, we still have those that their sizes are bigger than others. You understand? So now what I'm saying is that if the screen size is less than this number, this 576, in my case, I use 600, 576. I want this my app. Okay, see, if you want to test for the screen size, you can use this first figure here. This one is the width and this is the height. So for 576, let me increase to 576. You can enter it manually as 576. 576. So I'm saying that for 576, this thing doesn't sit nice. The user will not enjoy what is written. They can't even read some of the text. So for 576 screen size, I want to design this thing in such a way that it's comfortable for the reader to read. One of the things I can do is, instead of putting these cards side by side, I can put them on top of each other. Is it understood, Uzi?
Yes.
All right. Now, if I want to display these cards on top of each other, which CSS properties do you think I can use? Which flex property should I use?
I didn't get you. You say if you want to display.
If I want to display these cards on top of each other, flex property I can use. This flex direction rule means the cards should be sitting side by side. So if I want them to sit on top of each other, my flex direction should be what, please? Column.
Okay.
Should be column.
Okay, column.
Should be column. So if I want something to sit on top of each other, my flex direction should be column, which means I can go to the media query property and change my flex direction. So I can just come down here and now choose the screen size, which is this 576 pixel. And all I'm doing is I want to change I want to change the flex direction for this particular property to be column. See what we already implemented it here. So I can go ahead and change the flex direction for that particular one to be column. Let me delete this one. So if I uncomment this now, we see what happens. Can you see? Can you see? So every property I define inside this my media query is applied to this screen size. The maximum width, I'm saying that the maximum width should be 576. So between 0 and 576, please, what I'm telling CSS is apply these properties. And one of the properties is applying is that it's changing my flex direction to be column. Meanwhile, in this place, my flex direction was row. Here, my flex direction was row up here. But because I want my readers to be able to read what I've written, I said, okay, change my flex direction to be column. I also went ahead and added the color. I changed the color to be blue, but let me take it back. This is how it is. So is it making sense now, Uzi?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that is what media query does. As you can see, it's looking better like this. It's readable. All those unnecessary white spaces I was having, let me comment it out again. So all those unnecessary white spaces I was, all those unnecessary white spaces I was having had disappeared now because, see, all these unnecessary, it's not, yeah, this one on comment. So all the unnecessary white spaces I'm having has now disappeared. See, it wasn't looking nice like this. But once I define this media query property, it will just adjust it to sit on top of each other. You can even go ahead and change the color. You see some website that the background color on mobile is different from the background color on. So you can do many things. You can change anything, but you have to put all of them inside this particular screen size using media query. Is it clear now?
Yes, it's clear.
All right. So this is the concept of media query. This is the concept of media query. And it's something that you'll be using a lot in responsive design. So I want you to take note of this. These are the different screen sizes. Now, somebody may ask, so is it that after designing a website, I now go ahead and start also adjusting for different screen sizes? Yes, you have to do that. But meanwhile, note something. You don't necessarily need to define every property. There are some that will sit nicely for most screen sizes. So you target those ones that are distorted and adjust them. Like in our case, the only issue we had was our cars. But if I go lower, the car does not have issues again. Another thing that has issue is this guy here, this navigation elements. So I can still go ahead and define another smaller screen size. All I need to do is to write the same thing, repeat the same thing I did here. After I finish this screen size, I come down and repeat the same thing I did here and say, so if I repeat this, now I now target this navigation element, this navigation links, nav links. And these nav links from my HTML, the nav links are inside here. These are the nav links, they're inside this nav. And this is the U elements holding all of them. They're inside here. So I can now go ahead and target them calling this nav inside this place. So if I go and call this nav here, called nav, and I say, I give it, okay, let me give it a display of flex. Display is already flex. Let me say flex direction. If I give it column, flex direction, column. So you can see they're sitting on top of each other now. Is it making sense? Why? Because I reduced my screen size. So what I'm saying is that sorry, I've not even changed the screen size. Let me even go ahead and change it. Let me change it to say 276. So once I shrink my browser to 276, see, it goes to that size. Why? Because I'm assuming that there's a mobile phone whose width is 276. So why don't I also style this for it? But once it's above that, but what you do is we have something called breakpoints. Now you look at the points where your browser broke. If I go gradually, you notice that that map element broke at around 303, around 360 thereabouts, 360, 380. So it's better for me to come here and apply that property to 360. See, after 360, align it like this. So it will be aligned like this. I think after 360, it's sitting nicely. But once I start going, it will adjust so that it will still appear nice. Now, the concept is to master CSS on your own, because most of these frameworks are actually limited in what they provide. They're very limited in what they provide. The only place that frameworks are mostly recommended is when you start dealing with programming language like JavaScript. Even at that, you can hardly find somebody who knows. You can hardly find somebody who knows JavaScript and doesn't know how to use React very well. It's difficult. But you can see somebody who probably has an idea of React and they'll be struggling with React because they don't know JavaScript. React is a framework, the same thing with Bootstrap. The reason why you could understand what Bootstrap, what button means, card means, is because you understand CSS. So I will strongly advise you style most of your components yourself. CSS properties are enormous. There are so many of them that we didn't even scratch them. So if you style them yourself, you know these things and it stays with you and it's yours forever. So I would advise you look into doing CSS yourself instead of depending on a framework to style your CSS for you. So that is my take on that. So moving forward, any other questions, please? Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Yes. My question is that this media query, because I can see that you only apply it to the card only. Can
Okay.
it be applied? Can it be applied to the entire work or page?
No, I didn't only apply it to card. Look at what I did. I also applied it to the nav elements. You see the example we cited. Once we shrink, you see these nav elements, instead of appearing horizontally, they are now stacked on top of each other. Once the screen size reduces, you apply it to the element it affects. So if it doesn't affect P for small screen, there's no need changing anything. You leave it the way it is. So what you do is after designing your website, you now go ahead and start inspecting your website. There are online testers that you can send your code to. They will show you how your website looks on different screens. This tool we're using is one of them. This Chrome Dev tool is one of them, but there are others. So this tool, what it does, you can, if you even come here, think there's a place where you can select the phone, but it doesn't have all the phones. It works mostly with iPhone. Like this is how this website will look on an iPhone SE. This is how it will look on iPhone XR. This is how it will look on Samsung Galaxy. So just like that, you see different examples on how they'll be looking on different devices. These are all devices. But if you want to select a particular width, you can come here and select particular width yourself. You change it to responsive, dimension responsive. So you see, mobile, small, that is 320 pixel. Of course, there are mobile phones that are 320 pixel in width. We have mobile medium, 375 pixel. We have mobile large, 425 pixel, just like that. Tablet, this is for tablets. This is for tablets. Tablet is 768 pixel, and so forth and so on. So after you finish your design, you have to do these testings. You have to come and check them. That is what makes your design responsive and world class. Because we are not just doing this for fun. We are doing this because we want to be able to give this as a service to people tomorrow, so that they will also enjoy us. Because if you don't satisfy the clients, you know what, I don't need to tell you what happened. So this is what media query helps us achieve. All right.
I'm sorry, my network has been very funny today.
Okay.
So
sorry for that.
You call this platform Chrome what? Please, it's not the regular inspection we do.
Yeah, the regular inspection you do, but in this case, we're not clicking on this icon. Look, guys, this toggle device icon. See, okay. This toggle, what we were doing before was inspecting our elements. We have elements here and the CSS part of it here. So if you want to inspect an element, you just come here, click the element, inspect it, and inspect an element. But in this case, now want to toggle the device. See the symbol here, means laptop and phone. Want to toggle the device to see how it looks, what it looks like on different screen sizes. So that's what this one does for us. This toggle device, but yeah.
Also, I don't know, we didn't see video last week.
Oh, sorry, don't worry. We'll get the boots as early as Tuesday. We'll get it too.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So two things I want to, another thing I want us to also look at. If you see this property I defined it, I have two media features, this and this. Now, this is a situation where, okay, let's even go ahead and implement it. This is a situation where we are saying that for screen sizes between this size, minimum and maximum. Say for screen size, after defining this, okay, let's say I come here and I say I remove this guy and say here, and which means minimum of this and maximum of this, which means between 360 pixel to 558 pixel, apply this property. But below this, apply, maybe I define another property somewhere, applied. Now, any property, any media query you don't define, will take the default media query defined up. If you see the hierarchy is this one is like the default, the one applied up, then the one down is what will be applied as. So any media query you don't apply, will take the default up. So if you didn't change any property you didn't define, then we take the property defined first. So which means this my background color that is white. Since I didn't change it here, I didn't change it in this case, it will not change. But if I need it to change, I need to now define it here. So this is for range. Maybe you have screen sizes of 2 ranges that you want to work on. This is what you can do with that. This is what you can do with that. Place them side by side and the property will be applied to it. So this is the concept of media query, and it's a very important concept in design. No, but one thing I also want to point out, very important thing is, in responsive design, there is something called mobile first design. It's a new concept in web development, which is it's new, but it has gained a lot of popularity in the sense that you and I you agree with me. If I design a website that you cannot view properly with your mobile phone, the next thing you will tell me is that you can't even see it on the phone. So most websites that are designed these days are designed to fit the mobile first version, because the human psychology by default want to start designing with our desktop, since that is what we work with. But one of the concepts that is trending is when we start our design, when we start our design, we design with mobile first approach design. What does that mean? That means that you see these properties I outlined here, they will be for my mobile. Then beneath, I will now start specifying properties for the desktop. So I will come down here. Instead of what I did before, the reverse now will now be the case. I will now come down here and specify properties for desktop, which I can now define here. I can now come down here and say, for minimum width of 1200 pixel, 1200, I want these properties to apply. So if you go back, you now find out that everything will now change. Let me sorry. Everything will now change. Let me see. Okay, see, when my screen is small, it takes this the default that we did before. But once I increase my screen size, let me see. It's working here, but I notice, see, once I increase my screen size, it reduces. It becomes stacked on top of each other. The reverse now becomes the case. But once I go, so what that means is that in my development, I have to start with a mobile first concept. Mobile first concept means that if I want these cars to be stacked on top of each other, here in this particular place, I have to change this display, this flex direction to column. So what I will do is I will design first with mobile in mind. I'll just assume that I'm only designing for mobile. Then when I finish getting all the properties, adjusting all the properties to fit a mobile screen, I can now go to media query and now start changing it to fit the desktop version. That is called mobile first design. So instead of what we did before, where we had our property, they will now start coming down to be looking for, to be defining the different screen sizes. Now, different screen sizes after we defined the default screen size. My default screen size in this case becomes my mobile. After my mobile design, and I start defining the other screen sizes. Beginning from maybe this one, I go to the next another screen size. Maybe let me just copy this. I go to another screen size, and I change this to, okay, I said if for minimum width of, which means from 1,200 pixels and above, apply this screen size. I can even break it down further. Instead of just saying 1,200, I can even break it down further. After 1,200 and above, I can say, okay, let me start from, since we are ascending. First of all, I start from 960, define that. I come down, I do another one. So I can break it down at points using these breakpoints. Using these breakpoints, we define them. Using these breakpoints. So after defining for my small device, I now go ahead and do for 922. I can go for 1,002. I can go for 1,004. But even after applying these breakpoints, I still discover that there is something I don't like. Yes, between 1.2 and 1.4, I still have 1.3. I can do for 1.3. Between this and this, I still have 1,000. I have 1024. Most of our default laptop the resolutions are 1024 pixels. So I can do for 1024, which is 1,024 pixels. So mobile first design is a concept that is being adopted in web development, and it says that you should first of all design your default layers to fit a mobile phone, a mobile device. Sorry. So which means these designs we're doing, then when you finish doing for mobile device, you now start increasing it in ascending order. Going by, okay, I've done one, and I'll go by say 560 in that order. After 560, I can now migrate to the next one. I can now migrate to maybe 756. After 756, I go to 960. After 960, I go to 12. After just like that. So I've started from mobile and I'm going down gradually. And while I'm going down, I'm now adjusting the CSS elements that don't fit into the layout to fit my mobile first design. I can now start adjusting my CSS properties gradually to fit into my mobile first design. So that is the concept of mobile first design in responsive design. Do we have a question, please?
No, sir.
Okay. It's an important concept I want us to take home, because part of the things you encounter when you go for an interview is, can you explain the concept of the mobile first design? They will ask you that question. And it's just designing to do. So what I want you to do is, because it is not a natural concept to we designers, if you give me a website to design or an app to build, the first thing I do is to sit on my computer and start working on it. I don't check how it fits a mobile device. So what I want you to do is start building from the point of view of a mobile device. I will drop a task for us to do within the week. I will drop a task. I won't forget. I'm less busy. I will be less busy next week. Within the week. Now, what I want you to do with that task, design it from a mobile perspective first. See how it sits on a mobile phone using these things, these tools to check. Then you start increasing till you get to normal. Anything above, you can just do minimum 1,400. It means anything between 1,400 above should take these particular properties. I want you to do that and see how it sits. So I would like us to stop here for today. If you don't have any question concerning this particular class, because what we'll have to do next is wireframing design process. We've even done part of the design process, which is what I explained now. A major aspect of the design process is implementing mobile-friendly design. Okay, let me just go through it. Another concept of the design process that we'll also look into is accessibility, which I've explained before, making sure your website is accessible, that everybody can access your website, the users can access it, in terms of people with different conditions can actually access your website. People with different conditions can access your website. In fact, media query helps us a lot to define that principle. Because if we check this media query, we only define media. If you check our property, we just did media screen. Media. So don't forget and screen. I omitted and screen. Media screen and screen. Now, the screen is a media type. There are other types, media types. We have all. If you put all here, exactly. If you put all, what all means is I can change that to all. What all means is for every kind of media type. For every kind of media type, please apply this property. So in this case, I have screen, we have all, we have print, we have screen, we have speech. All is for everything. Why print is for, there are designs you do for devices that don't perform any function of display. Probably they are used to preview pages before they print the pages. So the users want to see how probably the information sits on a print preview before printing. Then there are ones for speech. It's used to for speech, we're reading speech text. So I'm just going through this because you might see them is on designs. Instead of putting screen here, they'll put speech, which means they are designing for screen readers, for devices that use screen reading concepts. Another one, in this our media feature, we've been working with minimum width, maximum width. There is also height. You can do maximum width, maximum height, minimum height. But why I don't bother ourselves most times with height is that most of the height of our devices are similar. Most of their heights are the same. And most of our website naturally flow with the height of our devices. It's the width that also always gives a challenge when it comes to adjusting. Because CSS elements by default are block elements. They sit on top of each other. So they'll naturally flow like that until you define, until you change them otherwise. So that is the concept. So we have height, we have orientation. In this place, I put height, I can put orientation. Orientation property, we have landscape and portraits. But I think I prefer going with screen because screen also covers that for us because we have the default size for landscape and portrait sizes. So this is all about media query, and I want you to understand about media query. Having said that, we've been able to cover design concepts and design processes. Probably another concept we look into in design is color combination. Whenever you want to do a design, a web design, the feedback you'll be getting from the users is maybe if it's a company, you try to find out their color, you try to find out their concepts, so that you combine their colors and get something beautiful for them. So the design process is all about getting information from the user. Once you meet the client, you ask, okay, what do you want to do? I want to design this, I want to design this. And depending on what they want to design, if they don't have a color that's specific to maybe the firm or the institute, the company or something, maybe the person wants to design something that has to do with charity, and they tell you, they ask you to, or your own, pick colors for them. There are colors that are friendly, there are colors that tell different stories. Please, I just want you to go through the concept of color and know how you combine colors to get nice designs. Those are part of the design processes you have to go through as a web developer, just to get information from the clients. We process this information and use this information to give the clients what they want. After getting that information, the next part we enter is called wireframing. Now, you don't, hello? You have a question? Okay, I thought I heard somebody saying something. Okay, now after getting information from the user, the second part of design process is called wireframing. We'll look into that next week. We'll look into wireframing and we'll conclude CSS. Wireframing is the concept of sketching your design, because you can say it's not an easy process going through designing a website. It's not an easy process. Now, there are tools that you can use in sketching what you want to give to the clients. You go ahead and sketch it. When you sketch it, you can convert it to a picture format or PDF and send to the client. Say, are you okay with this design? So you can make all your changes. When you now make all your changes and the client is okay, you now go ahead with the design process. But most times that concept of the sketching or wireframing is often left to the people, the UX UI designers. You know, in the whole blockchain, we have front-end developers, we have back-end developers, we have data analysts and the rest of them. We come together to make every beautiful design you see. The wireframing and the UX UI design it's always been implemented by you. There are people called UX, it means user experience and user interface design, UI and UX design. I didn't plan to go touch this today, but I want to do it so that we'll just wrap up CSS and move on to other important things. User interface design, user interface, UI design, user interface, UX, user experience design. So the user interface design is normally done by people called the UI or UX designers. They do the wireframing, they do the design, and there are tools used for this design process. One of them is Figma. Another one is Adobe. Adobe has a tool you can use in doing a UX design. So a UI design. Now this UI design comes in the form of either a PDF picture or something. I think I have one. Please, I want you to go and check Figma. You don't need to know Figma. All you need to know is how to read information from Figma. But I'll just show you this briefly. But it's from a design. It's from a team. Let me go ahead and show you this. So the people who do this are called UX UI. See, they've laid out the websites. So I can print this as a picture. I don't want to maximize it because it's somebody's work, so I don't want. Please just bear with me. But this thing is now is a page, is a design. So what you now do as a software developer is to take this design and code this design. But before you do this, you can send this to the client. The client sees this and they like it. It's okay, go ahead and code it. So we have people who specialize in coming up with this particular designs. They are called UX UI designers. They are called UX UI designers. They do the wireframing, they do the design using this tool called Figma. It's called Figma. So it allows you to lay, all it does for you is, what it does is, these are boxes and letters. They are not codes. So you inspect these things, you can inspect them like this is a landing page. You can inspect them and now start coding them. So just briefly, I just wanted to point that out to us. So that is the concept of wireframing. So that is the design process flow. You get information from the user. You either wireframe with a sketch. You can just sketch with your pen. There are also, although there are tools that you can use in wireframing. One of them is Sigma and the rest of them. But I don't want you to bother yourself with all those. You can sketch with your pen. If you're not too conversant with how to use Balzagne. Balzagne is called I think Balzagne. That's the spelling. So it's used for wireframing. So after the process of wireframing, we now go into the concept of the UI design, where you design it, put the colors. In wireframing, sometimes you don't need to apply colors, just the layouts, how they look. You can also do that with your pen and paper, just as I've said. But in order to make it more presentable, there's a tool using wireframing. Then after that, you now go into the UI UX design, which is done with Figma and the rest of it, before you now go straight into coding. This process is actually done in established and serious organizations. That is what you'll be saying. Because if you get a job in a software development company, trust me, you're not the one that's going to be doing the UI UX design. There's a team that's dedicated to generate that for you, and all you do is to code and make it work. But it's good you have a concept of what it means and have a concept of how to read from a Figma file and say, okay, all you need to do is to look at it and say, okay, just like this one, okay, I need to apply a purple color here. This is how they want it laid out, and you just go ahead and code it and make it work like that. Okay, so basically that is all that has to do with the design concept and the resources. I rushed this because I want to conclude on CSS, not next week, today. So that by next week, we can move into JavaScript. So please, if you have a question, if something is, you're confused about something in HTML and CSS, this is your chance. Because after today, it might not be as easy, it might not be very easy for us to grasp, because we'll be going into more serious coding. When I mean more serious coding, JavaScript. So questions, please. Hello.
Yes, sir. Thank you for everything. You have
Right.
actually done great. We appreciate.
Okay.